So to get the bad taste of Scarlett's artwork out of my mind, we decided we were going to go over G.I. Joe, The Real American Hero, issue 38. And there is a lot to really go through in this book because there's some stuff that I just never knew about. The print date on this was August 1985. This is called Judgments. It's Larry Hama writing, Rob Williams doing the pencils, Andy Muschinsky doing the inks, Rick Parker doing the letters, G. Russos doing the colors, Daniel O'Neill was the editor, and Jim Shooter, editor-in-chief. So some big names, beautiful artwork. I love how the Cobra symbol here, just that traditional inking and coloring to kind of get that flag effect. And this, at first when I read this, I kind of had to laugh because it says, deep under suburban Springfield in Cobra headquarters. You'd think Cobra Island, but it's like, meanwhile in Springfield, USA, be reminded, Destro, this is an inquest, not a trial. The subject, Billy, is quite guilty. Everyone present here today was witnessed to the treasonous act. We are impaneled to determine the cause of his, what's that word? Perfidy, that we may prevent future incidents. Proceed with your questioning, but limit yourself to pertinent lines of inquiry. The fact that the subject is my son is not relevant. I never knew Cobra Commander had a son, so this was kind of like, oh wow. You know, I never really read a lot of G.I. Joe comics growing up, so hearing that was just sort of like a, that's kind of cool. Now, apparently he had, what do you call it? What's that word? You have allies. I can't remember what the word is. But essentially, he pulled a gun on his own father. The assassination attempt at the Cobra rally was well planned and expertly equipped. The fake Cobra youth uniform was perfect. The 357 Magnum was perfectly tuned and loaded with mercury tip explosive bullets. Billy had help, adult help, someone who knew the program for the rally, knew Cobra procedure, knew exotic weaponry, and had something to gain. These are parameters that fit most of the tribunal assembled today. So we get the Dreadnought, Storm Shadow, Zartan. I've never heard of Wild Weasel, and then Firefly. And right off the bat, if you haven't read the last issue, as I've always said, the first issue should always be, you know, what draws you in, want to read more, and then go back to the latter half. We find out that here, Major Blood and the Baroness are whispering. Because if he talks, shut up, fool. Why don't you just stop fooling around and bring out the goons with their rubber hoses? Now, why this is important is I was talking to our community member, Sam Gerthy, and he was telling me later, because I wasn't sure if Jinx from the Scarlet book was an actual OG G.I. Joe character, and he said that she was in San Francisco, I think he said, and she taught dojo for the Joes. And apparently, spoilers if you haven't read this, so if you don't want any spoilers, pause this review, go check out the books and come back. And you're back. So apparently Billy goes and joins and is trained by Jinx. So that was kind of a cool little nod. So the G.I. Joes, there's three kind of plots, I guess you could say, are going on where Duke, Lady J, I believe it is, he says, Stalker and Gung Ho are familiar with Sierra Gordo. They've been there before. When Cobra pulled out of Sierra Gordo, their puppet military dictatorship collapsed. Since then, the extremists, crackpots, and plain vanilla psychos have been playing musical chairs with the government. Tchaikovsky's crypto-fascist anarchists and flat earthers are at each other's throats, trying to enlighten the peasantry with bullets and hand grenades. A group of well-intentioned Americans thought they could arbitrate a peace down there. The ones that were lucky were shot on sight. One known survivor is being held captive in the mountains. That's your mission. And then the next one, and so who they have to extract is Adele Burkhart. Now, if you remember, we went over G.I. Joe issue 1, and they had to save her from Cobra in the first issue. So I like that they kind of bring back characters and sort of bring things to a full circle. Now, while that's happening, I don't want to get into the trial. I want you guys to read it, but you're starting to feel, what do you call it? Tensions rising. And the way that they want to pry the conspirators, that's the word I was looking for, out of Billy's, they want to use this thing called the brain scanner. And Zartan's like, I'll do it myself. And Cobra's basically saying, order, I demand order in this tribunal. And so essentially, I like how he hesitates, because they're saying, this can cause a lot of harm. And he just says, take him to the brainwave scanner. And of course, Major Blood and the Baroness are at this point shitting bricks. The next part, okay, before we get into all the subplots with the Joes, at the brain scanner, we kind of get an origin of Cobra Commander. And it's interesting to see how Cobra came about, because I don't think they ever really talked about this in the original cartoon. But it says this seems to be an older memory. We see a shadowed figure. I'm not going to let them do it, Billy. I'm not going to be ground under the wheels of big government. They're calling my sales program a pyramid scheme. But I'm going to create an underground organization that will bypass government restrictions and garner power through terrorism and extortion. And I won't stop with Springfield. I won't stop until my organization coils around the world like a giant cobra. And so we see Cobra Commander actually, this very much reminds me of like what happened in 1930s Germany. You guys know what I'm talking about, the way he starts to rally people. Cobra may be small now, but we are growing every day. Soon all of Springfield will be ours. And after that, who knows what we can grow into. And next year, by this time, I promise you, everybody will have his own uniform. And Cobra's just like, stop the machine. Unplug Billy immediately. This is highly classified information about being banded about. And we find out that Billy's actually able to stop certain memories from being brought about. And so everyone's saying, oh, Billy's thinking that he's being loyal to these conspirators, but he's actually just being. Now here, this is the best part of the mission, the elevator ride up. And then, so what happens is, I think it's CoverGirl, Snake Eyes, I think that's Lady J, Duke. There's supposed to be like a Cobra splinter cell here on the States that they're going to go infiltrate. And before we can get into all that, we get into Sierra Grotto. Tracker, I think is his name, and Roadblock. They actually get shown up by someone local there. And we'll get into that in a second. But here's where, just look at how before a lot of digital drawing came about, you know, these artists had to know anatomy. And I just love how, here, this is another thing that's really important about this book, other than seeing the origin of Cobra. This is the first time we see Storm Shadow betray Cobra. It says, leave him be. The kid's been through enough. Not in my book. The big man's son. Huh. Bet he used to think he was high and mighty. Now he's high and dry. Old Cobra Commander's going to make an example out of this one. Show everyone that even his own kin is got to pay the price for betrayal. No one's going to come save Billy because Billy don't have a friend in the world. Billy's going to sit here till he rots. And just the anatomy of seeing Storm Shadow quietly climbing the vents or the pipes here above the guards. I don't know. There's something about this that's just so awesome, and it just makes me miss this old school style of artwork because it just conveys so much and just makes it look so badass. So here, Stalker. They're going up through the grass in Sierra Grotto. Got a lot of nerve saying this jungle belongs to you, mister. Back where I come from, the turf belongs to whoever lives to walk away from it. And I must have deed and title to this plot, since I fully intend to stroll away from here intact, smiling and full of vigor. I don't see how you can sport. I may have been a dummy at math, but even I can count. And I count 4 of us, and then we just see these guys just pop out of the grass, showing that the Joes, you know, can still be taken advantage of. I just love that. And not so much use of word balloons, just the use of visual storytelling. And here's where I think this is the first time, if I understand correctly, that we see Storm Shadow betray Cobra. He saves Billy, and I love how we just get this Dutch angle shot and all these dark shadows of Destro. Not if I can help it. And it just shows how much, you know, Destro can really be so malevolent. And I think that's why I like him, because he has this kind of swagger about him, but he is a lot more ruthless than Cobra Commander and a lot more insidious. Now back on Staten Island, Duke and his group are going against this Cobra splinter cell. You know, everyone's lining up, getting ready to go. And Lady J and Duke just take it right to the chest. And I just love this. Just gorgeous artwork. And you're thinking, what happened to our heroes? And then we come to find out who this character was that was able to sneak up on the Joes. And they're just laughing. Fight. That's what true crows do best. Sneaking up on people. We're good at that too. Okay, you've had your fun quota for the day. I've been squatting in the bush waiting for a mission for too long. Time to get, what's this, young bud? You got white paper stuck in your helmet? Don't you know what camis are for? Snapshot. This your girl? She's not really my girl. So I like that we kind of get all these different plots going about. And then, of course, it's a great moment between Destro and Storm Shadow. Give up, Storm Shadow. Even you can't outrace a bullet. Oh no. And it's a little corny, but just showing that he's able to use the skills that Clan Arashikaji has taught him. He's able to move and just knock Destro off guard. It's just a great little moment. Battle proceeds. Beautiful artwork as the Joes going against these cats. And of course, Junkyard, I think his name, Junkyard and Storm Shadow coming through the back. I just love these use of these old letters. Like, these come as graphic packages now, but back in the day, you really had to lay these out and then work on them yourself. And I just kind of miss when this was custom made instead of everything just kind of being stock nowadays. Now, I don't want to give too much away of the plot. There's a moment with Billy and Storm Shadow I wanted to go over, and I don't remember where it was. Maybe I'm thinking I'm the next issue, but essentially he rescues Billy. He says, "Go, Billy, go get safe." And he says, "Why are you going to stick around, Storm Shadow?" And he goes, "Good point." And they both run off. So I can't remember if it's in this book or the next issue, if I would just happen to see a panel of it, but it made me laugh. But this issue, there's not a whole lot of like first appearances or major events, but seeing how Storm Shadow finally kind of defects from Cobra, the ramifications of Cobra Commander's son, excellent artwork, great storytelling, all combined in this book. I wish this copy was a little bit better. It's got some ticks and discoloration, but nonetheless, I am glad to finally have this in my collection. Have you guys read this issue? What do you think about it? If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop where it is to get your action figures and comics. Grab this book and as much of this series as you can get. If you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate taking a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you mind hitting that fancy little Yo Joe bell next, subscribe. That was like typical content. You guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.